Today, we are revealing the secret behind Olivia Rodrigo's vocals. On songs like Driver's License, Good For You, Vampire, and across her latest album, Olivia's vocals feel incredibly intimate, emotional, and somehow larger than life at the same time. So, what is Dan Nigro actually doing to achieve that sound? After digging through some interviews, studio notes, production breakdowns, I found something surprising. The vocal chain isn't complicated at all. In fact, Dan has openly shared much of the exact workflow he uses when recording Olivia. So today, we are rebuilding that entire process from scratch, hearing what every stage contributes and uncovering the real reason Olivia's vocals sound the way they do. But first, here's the vocal completely raw.
Where is the world I've been looking for? Oh, it's been a while since I'm almost home. Oh, I'm hiding in this town, in the water and stones. The ocean's rising, does it even know?
Now let's break it down. One thing that became obvious almost immediately while researching Dan's workflow: he's not obsessed with plugins, he's obsessed with capturing the performance. And when you're working with a singer as dynamic as Olivia, that's incredibly important.
I need someone who's willing to come into the studio and hash it out with me and be like, by the way, can you get on the microphone again? I know you sang this already, but can you sing it again?
Dan has actually said that while Olivia is singing, he's often writing the mic preamp in the real time. Think about that for a second. Most engineers set the preamp gain once and never touch it again. Dan is actively adjusting the gain as she performs. That tells you just how dynamic Olivia's vocals really are. The goal isn't to squash the performance later with the compression, it's to capture every emotional moment before it even reaches the computer. That philosophy sets the tone for everything else. Capture the emotion first, enhance it later. Let's start with the recording chain Dan has described using with Olivia. The recording chain starts with the Soundelux U99. This microphone has become a staple throughout many of Olivia's recordings. Interestingly, Dan has described the U99 as being slightly darker, and that's exactly why he likes it. Instead of chasing a super bright vocal from the start, he's capturing something smooth, warm and natural. From there, the signal runs into a base 1073 preamp. Rather than drastically changing the vocal, the 1073 simply adds a little more weight and density before the compression stage. It's a subtle move, but it helps the vocal feel full and solid long before any plugin comes into play. Next comes the 1176 silver phase. This is Dan's go-to compressor for Olivia's vocals. The goal here isn't heavy compression. It's simply catching the peaks while letting the emotion stay completely intact. Dan has said he prefers the silver phase because it feels smoother, especially on powerful vocal performances. And considering songs like Driver's License and Vampire contain huge emotional moments, that makes a lot of sense. Dan has also mentioned occasionally switching to a Blue Stripe 1176. Not because it's better, but because different performances call for different tools. If the singer is standing a little farther from the microphone and he wants a slightly more open sound while still controlling the transients, that's when he'll sometimes reach for the Blue Stripe instead. And I think that's really important takeaway. He isn't following a preset, he's responding to the performance. Now, before we move into the mix, I want to make one thing clear. I don't have access to Dan's original recordings, or Soundelux U99, or a Bay 1073. So, I've recreated this workflow as closely as possible using plugin emulations and a well-recorded pop vocal. To recreate the recording chain, I'm using Chef 73 to emulate the character of a 1073 preamp. I'm just adding a little bit preamp and slight EQ moves.
Oh, I'm hiding in this town, in the water and stones. The ocean's rising, does it even know?
Followed by the CLA 76 Blue Stripe, which gets me very close to the smooth compression of an 1176. And before any of the mixing process begins, I also added this Auto-Tune Pro. The goal here isn't to force every note perfectly in tune. It's simply to tighten the performance so it sits more confidently in the mix while still sounding completely natural. Then, for the occasional word or syllable that needs a little extra attention, I'll switch over to the graph mode and make small manual adjustments.
Stones, the ocean's stones. The ocean's rising, does it even know?
Once the vocal is recorded, Dan's in the box processing is surprisingly straightforward. Let's build it one stage at a time. The first plugin is usually another 1176. Nothing aggressive here. We are simply tightening the dynamics and helping the vocal stay consistent throughout the mix. Decapitator. This was easily the biggest surprise during my research. Out of every plugin Dan has publicly talked about, this is the one that kept coming up. He almost always runs Olivia's vocals through Soundtoys Decapitator. Why? Because remember, the U99 starts off slightly dark. Instead of fixing that with aggressive EQ, Dan adds harmonics. Those extra harmonics gives the vocal more presence and excitement without sacrificing the warmth that made him choose the microphone in the first place. Once the character is there, it's time for cleanup. Corrective EQ removes problem frequencies and helps the vocals sit naturally inside the production. Nothing fancy, just solving problems. Next comes de-essing. Modern pop vocals need plenty of brightness, but too much sibilance can become distracting very quickly. A little control here keeps everything smooth. Finally, Dan often reaches for soothe too. This plugin dynamically removes harsh resonances only when they appear. It's one of the reasons the vocal remain clean, natural and smooth, even when pushed right front of the mix.
Where is the world I've been looking for? Oh, it's been a while since I'm almost home. Oh, I'm hiding in this town, in the water and stones. The ocean's rising, does it even know?
One of my favorite discoveries from Dan's workflow isn't a plugin, it's automation. Dan uses Valhalla VintageVerb, but the real magic isn't the plugin, it's how he automates it. Instead of setting one static reverb level and leaving it there, he gradually writes the reverb throughout the song. As more instruments enter the arrangement, he slowly increases the amount of reverb. That means the vocal space evolves with the production. Sometimes he also goes for this echo boy for the tape echo, just to make the vocal a little bit wider and thicker. Let's hear what that sounds like.
Where is the world I've been looking for? Oh, it's been a while since I'm almost home. Oh, I'm hiding in this town, in the water and stones. The ocean's rising, does it even know?
After rebuilding Dan Nigro's vocal chain, I don't think the secret is U99. I don't think it's 1176 either. The real secret is the philosophy behind the chain. Everything is intentional. Every piece has a purpose. The recording chain captures the emotion. The processing chain simply enhances what's already there. Every single decision serves the performance. And I think that's exactly why Olivia's vocals feel so authentic. So that's it for this video. If there's one takeaway I'd love for you to remember, it's this: great vocals aren't created by stacking more plugins, they're created by making every single decision serves the performance. If you'd like to try this workflow for yourself, I have recreated the entire thing as an FL Studio preset and it's completely free over my Patreon. If you enjoyed the breakdown or learned something new today, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. And let me know in the comments which producer or artist you'd like me to break down next. And finally, a huge shout out to all of my Patreon members. Your support genuinely makes these deep dives possible. I'll catch you in the next one. Stay creative.